too many people are caught up in I'm going to do the sub two model. I'm going to do the wholesale model. Stop. What is the best potential of the assets?
Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset. Quick disclaimer as always, I am not a CPA, I am not an attorney or a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, not telling you or anyone else what to do. The views and opinions expressed in these podcasts are provided for education and informational purposes only and are not necessarily the views of my employer, ADP. I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in.
All right, welcome back, Freedom Point Podcast listeners. Thank you again for jumping into another episode of the Freedom Point. We're so glad you're here with us again today. I've got another amazing guest with me today, Justin Colby. Justin, welcome to the show.
What's happening? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Looking forward to chopping it up here with you this afternoon. Justin's a seasoned real estate investor with over 17 years of experience, and get this, nearly 3,000 deals. He generates seven-figure income through wholesaling and fix and flipping projects while accumulating millions in rental properties, including apartments, single-family homes, and a storage facility. His success primarily stems from his adaptability, lead generation, and raising private capital. Justin, you're definitely no rookie to the stage here. So really, again, appreciate you being a part of the show. If you could maybe give our listening audience a little bit more of your background, what you're currently focused on today, maybe kind of that journey that led you into real estate, et cetera.
Yeah. So the journey was kind of a classic journey. And the only reason why I'm probably going to skip that is because I want to make sure I make a massive impact on a short window I have for your crew. The real estate market has changed a lot for, the last 18 months for a lot of people. I've done this business for 17 years, meaning I made it through 2008, 2009. I went through that. I have the scars to prove it. And so I've done very well in being able to adapt to whatever's happening within the economy. And that is a big reason, not the only reason, but a big reason for me to be able to have the longevity I had after 17 years and 3,000 deals and, tens of millions in real estate assets and et cetera. Now, what is newest to me and what I have found the most success at, I have aptly coined, and my business partner gave me this strategy, which is reverse flipping. And essentially it has really created this opportunity that so many people don't know within our real estate space. And it works for single family homes, apartments, commercial. And so I am most excited about that right now. It is something that we have, since literally as we record this on a Tuesday, almost 1 week ago, Wednesday, from Wednesday to today, we have 18 deeds we have bought in this strategy. And it is just such a powerhouse type of strategy in the economic times we're in. And it works no matter what economic time. But that is what is most sexy to me these days.
Well, I think it goes without saying, but you're going to have to help explain,
Sure.
to myself and our listening audience, what exactly reverse flipping is and why this time in history is a great opportunity to utilize the strategy.
Yeah. So, and you have a big influence in this space. This is why this podcast exists. And so do I. And what you and I both know is a lot of people trying to get into real estate have a big challenge getting their first deal. A lot of times it's a lot harder than what people expect. And so what I've been able to show is there's a big segment of the market that is still going through short sales, going through foreclosures, have big tax liens that we aren't focusing on. At least the wholesalers aren't focusing on them. And the reason why is because there's usually no margin. What are they going to do? They're over leveraged. There's no equity, et cetera. Well, so the competition just got reduced drastically. And what happens is we have the team, we own a loss mitigation company that allows us to basically essentially stop foreclosure for these individuals and help them out of that case. Now, these aren't motivated sellers. So you and I both know every coach in the world talks about find motivated sellers, right? Start with the absentee list, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I'm a coach myself. I have a podcast. I get it. But what the difference is, these aren't motivated people anymore. They're over it. They're done with the home. They don't care anymore. I had a student today call me. He said, I made one call. I joined your coaching program this morning, 8 a.m. Watched a couple of your videos. I made one call and I'm getting my very first deed today, right now, from an agent that has the property on the market that is open for everyone, that has been on the market, I think he said 300 something days, maybe 400. And he's going to go buy the deed from the homeowner, pay the homeowner some cash, and stop the foreclosure. The homeowner thinks, literally, he was like, the homeowner and the agent got on the phone with me. The homeowner was crying, thanking me because she didn't want her credit ruined for 7 years. She's willing to let the home go, but she was more worried and concerned about her credit. And so it is essentially the process. The reason why we aptly named it reverse flipping is because we end up owning the asset before we figure out what the exit strategy is. Everyone's caught up. You need to be a wholesaler. You need to do sub two. You need to be a fix and flipper. You need to be a landlord. Cool. Well, that means you are thinking about your exit before you go get the property. In this case, it's in reverse. You go get the property, figure out the exit.
Yeah, that makes total sense to me. Many people that listen to this podcast know that I've got a background in fix and flipping myself, right? And you're exactly right. I mean, when the property itself is distressed. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be financial distress. It could be operating distress. One telltale sign is in the Midwest, if you see, maple trees growing out of the gutters, that's probably an operationally distressed, type of a property, especially if the, lawn hasn't been mowed all summer kind of a thing too, right? So right. My question for you is this, and you've had a lot of success in this area. So, when it comes to what that exit strategy is going to look like after you've implemented the reverse flipping, strategy, when it comes to wholesaling and fix and flip projects, what factors do you consider when deciding whether to wholesale or to flip?
Great question. And it really is asset based, right? I think we just take a look at the asset once we are able to finish the negotiations with the bank or deal with the IRS or find the heirs, because maybe there's multiple heirs. Whenever we can get there, then we take a look at the numbers and we say, okay, what is the best potential of the property? And that's big. And as an active real estate investor and been around a long time, like too many people are caught up in I'm going to do the sub two model. I'm going to do the wholesale model. I'm going to do stop. What is the best potential of the asset? Then figure out what to do. Does that make sense? And just too many people are caught up in a singular vertical. And I think it's crazy. I mean, even as a fix and flipper, I've probably fix and flipped, 800 out of the 3,000 deals. Like, I only choose the ones that I believe are the best fix and flips. I've also wholesaled maybe 2,000 of the deals out of, you know what I mean? Like, and I've kept, hundreds, right? And so I say that to just say it's always about the asset. So I make that decision when we can confirm how much debt do we have to officially pay off now that we got the payoff from the negotiation of the banks? How much do we have to pay the IRS relative to whatever the tax lien is? How much equity is in the home? What is the upside of potential ARV? Okay, great. You know what? This one, I'm wholesaling for a couple bucks. We'll move on. This one, we're going to keep as a rental because, for example, we got the deed to a fourplex in Fort Lauderdale, I think on Friday. Stop foreclosure on Monday. It is a $1.1, $1.2 million beautifully upkept fourplex. The bank they're owed like $960. They haven't been paying for 8 months. We're going to we already stopped the foreclosure. We're going to negotiate with the bank and we're going to keep it. There's no reason we would let that one go. Right. And so it's just about the asset.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate your respect towards adaptability because really at the end of the day, we don't always know, what black swan event is on the horizon. We don't really know at what stage in the economic cycle we're at. Some people think we're at the bottom now, but maybe we're not for another 12 months, right?
Right.
I remember back in, 2017 when we were kind of exiting out of single family, home ownership and fixing and flipping, everybody at that time thought that there was a recession on the horizon. Well, if you had gotten out of the real estate business back in 2017, you missed a massive run up, over a 4 to 5 year period in the wake of, 2017 and what all the experts were predicting, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about, and you've been around obviously a very long time like myself, like think about what happened with COVID. People just sold all their property, right? Oh my God, I'm just going to sell. They just lost out on probably doubling the actual value. I'll give you a perfect example. I moved to Miami in 2021. I bought my home here in Miami, sight unseen, by the way, which is very strange. My own personal home. And I bought it for $1.1 million. My neighbors were like, how much did you pay for this home? And I was like, 1.1. They're like, oh my God, this home, 10 years ago sold for what, right? Whatever. And I've literally doubled the value. I just had an appraiser come out and appraise my home. The home I could sell today for $2 million. This is 2021 to 2024 as we record this episode. I've doubled the value. And that is exactly what you're talking about, Jeremy. Like when people throw this, like, the world is going to crash BS, it is usually right before it actually explodes in the right direction. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why you and I have stamina is because we can kind of see around the corner a little bit, right? The newer people, I get it. It's emotional. But I'll tell you, like, it's interesting because I'm more bullish on buying and keeping assets today than I have been in my entire career. And I get asked a lot on podcasts when I get featured, like, why? Interest rates are high and blah, blah. And I said, it is quite literal economics 101. And I took one course of economics because they forced us to, and it was 101. It is supply and demand.
Yep.
And we are not catching up anytime soon. They will try, and there are builders now are building buy or build to rent. They're not even selling it, right? Like we are going to be in this opportunity zone for a long time. And if a rental isn't printing me money and it's okay, great, because in 5 years, the value is going to double and I'll have a bigger upside of what I call being bankable. Because then if I amass 700 single family homes that have, however many millions in equity, I go to the bank and say, give me 50% of the equity. Then I'm going to either go buy a massive apartment of $500 or I'm going to put it in my pocket and put $10 million in my pocket and to make it tax free, etc. Like I don't care about the $200 a door rental. I care about the equity.
Yeah, absolutely. And listening audience, you've heard this time and time again. I'm going to repeat it again, what Justin said. We are in a massive supply and demand imbalance right now in this country. And so that really is the number one biggest challenge in the real estate space when it comes to investing. Okay. The number one biggest challenge outside of the fact that you've got an operations team, right? Running and managing the asset if you're a passive investor, right? The greatest challenge to real estate is on the supply and demand side. So if you believe that we're going to all of a sudden overnight manufacture 10 to 20 million homes, okay, or we're going to produce 5 to 10 million multifamily apartment units with the snap of a finger, that's really the main thing that's affecting valuations and prices today is on the supply and demand side. Justin, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's like I said, my own personal home. There's no reason for it to double. But it's because there's nothing else to go get. And so it just every one that sells for a little higher, sells for a little higher, sells for a little higher. And then you come up to this number and you go, so I agree 100%. I'm going to be very bullish on buying assets. I still wholesale, right? It's a great exit strategy when it doesn't fit my buy box. It's not a good flip. It's not a great rental for me. It's in a weird area. I don't love. Let me just go make a couple bucks, liquidate my marketing spend, right? Build up the operational, budget and keep going. And so I think what I try to coach to is you need to be dynamic. If you're only a fix and flipper and that's all you do, you need to stop that. You need to buy rentals. You need to wholesale from time to time. If you're only a wholesaler, stop it. Fix and flip from time to time. Raise some capital. Buy some rentals. And now the newest journey I've been on is reverse flipping, right? It's so simple. And so no one knows how to do it. And it's not hard. It's just no one's targeting highly leveraged property. Why? There's no equity, right? There's none for flippers. There's none for landlords. There's none for wholesalers. But if you have the lost MIT company that can negotiate against the bank, which I own, well, now I can do it. So now I've been doing I'm teaching everyone how to do it. I'm JVing with them because I can negotiate against the banks. It's just a great strategy, great opportunity. And people like you, Jeremy, you'd be flipping all these things or keeping.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know that, raising private capital is one of the biggest, parts of your, success, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Can you share your approach with our listening audience on, your approach to really building trust with private investors and how you've been able to use those partnerships to help you scale over time?
Great question. So I teach this in a very simple way. You have three circles of influence. You have your inner circle, outer circle, and social circle. So your inner circle is exactly what you think. It is your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle. Like it's Christmas dinner. Who's at your Christmas dinner is your inner circle, right? You have your outer circle. Now this is, what I would almost call like a work colleague. Like after work, you go grab a beer, but you probably don't invite them to Christmas, right? Like a gym bro. You hit the gym, you grab a burger after the gym, but again, you're probably not inviting them to Christmas dinner type of thing. And then you have your social circle, which is exactly what it sounds like. You have your social media world is vast, right? I have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. I don't know them, but they know me. And so understanding how to leverage those 3 points of inner circle, outer circle, and social circle creates an opportunity to do exactly what you said, is start and build the relationship. I'm sure you say this, and everyone's heard it. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. So even in the social media side, the third circle, the social circle, all you have to do is show what you're doing. Tell people what you're doing. Because if they start to know who you are and they know what you do, then it's just a function of when you want to ask if they're interested in being a lender or a partner. Well, they know who you are and they know what you do. Your take rate of them accepting that opportunity is going to get to like 80 to 90% because they know, like, and trust you. And unfortunately, in my dad's a great example of this, and I can't beat it into him. But there's just a section of life of people these days that just like, I hate social media, blah. And I say, God bless you, Dad. But he's the same guy that ends up having to borrow money from me, his son. So it's a tricky spot.
Yep. I've got a couple of parents like that too, so I can appreciate your sympathies there. I know that you're a mentor to, thousands of investors through your coaching platform and your podcasts. What's one common mistake that you see new real estate investors make, and how do you help them avoid it?
There's a lot. So I'm going to bring up two. First, they quit too early, right? So new investors quit too early. Why do they quit too early? Is because they have an improper expectation on the result, time expectation specifically. They get into real estate investing, they see you, they see me, they think it's easy, and they say, okay, I'm going to get a deal in 30 or 40 days or 60 days. And then they don't. And they say, the economy, the market, Jeremy doesn't know what he's talking about. And they start blaming everything. So they quit too early. But the commonality of that, the biggest mistake, is they don't actually take action. It's easier for them to not take action because action's tough. Action's uncomfortable. You're doing something you've never done. And so it's like the duality of you quit too early. And the reason why you quit too early is because you didn't take the action that Jeremy told you to take or Justin told you to take. And then you want to point the finger why it didn't work. Well, action creates uncomfortability. So I say this all the time on my podcast is I say, when we're children, we learn how to crawl, walk, and swim, ride a bike, ride roller skates. We fall down, we smash our legs, we smash our head, we choke in the water. We do all these. And guess what? We get up and do it again. But somewhere in adulthood, we get beaten down so heavily by shame and fear and ridicule about making a mistake and falling down that we don't even want to take action. And it's sad. And I try my best to be the Tony Robbins, right? But guys, you got to remove the nonsense because people don't give a shit. They're already gossiping about you. They're already doing that. So go take action to better your life because what Jeremy does, what I do, creates a lot of money. And if you think money doesn't create happiness, take a look. Right? I mean, it just does. And people are like, Justin, you're all about money. Money cures so much. It cures so much in life, right? Even for people who are unhappy in their marriage. Well, what if you could take a 4-day vacation with your wife every month because you can afford it? Do you think you'd have a happier marriage? Just take action.
Yeah.
That's really, that was the boiled down answer, bro.
Yeah, no, what you're saying, it makes complete sense to me, right? And I see it all over the place, even with people that are quote unquote in my inner circle, right? At the end of the day, if they want something better, you got to be vulnerable. You got to be willing to put yourself out there to a certain extent. You of course need to have a blueprint. You need to have goals, and maybe you might need a mentor. You might need a playbook, that kind of thing. But like having all that stuff is not going to equal success, right? Actually executing, on and taking the action, like you said, and then not just that, but also being consistent with it. Because I think some people do take action on the thing for weeks or months, but the reality is sometimes it takes consistent action over years before you start seeing that, wow, the effort and the energy and the time that I'm putting into growing the thing, right, is now paying dividends.
Jeremy, you hit it so dead on. Everyone rewind what Jeremy just said right now. And here, I'm going to give you a couple proof in the pudding. First of all, I have 5 laws of success. And the 5th law is remove your time expectation on results. So if you remove time expectation of getting your first deal, making your first million, buying your first apartment, what you remove the time expectation when you're going to do it, then you'll just never give up, because your answer is as fast as I can. You just won't quit, right? So remove when. If it takes you a year, who cares? That is as fast as you were able to do it. You'll never quit if you don't have a time expectation on when you're going to achieve the result, right? So that is my 5th law, and it is so critical. But here's an example of that. My podcast, The Science of Flipping, just hit the #1 investing podcast in Apple. I am the #1 investing podcast on Apple. Do you know how long I've been podcasting for, Jeremy? You might, but let's say you don't. I've been doing it for 11 years. 11. Not only that, I've never directly made money from podcasting. I've just been giving. I've been doing the thing for 11 years. And at the beginning of this year, something happened. My reach, I don't know the algorithm and how I caught it. But next thing you know, I'm ranked number 56. Next thing you know, I'm ranked number 38. Next thing you know, and then I hit #1. Now, Dave Ramsey's been #1 for literally as long as I can think of. And so you'll have vacillating, if that's the right word, like the other day I saw I was #3 and then I was #1 again. Like, so depending upon the episode and downloads of the episode, like it'll jump. But I've hit #1. And I have a screenshot all over my social media, but like no one can take that from me. But it's because I didn't have an expectation of when I could get there. I just kept going. So that's all. Like, if you can take nothing else from what Jeremy and I are telling you, just keep going without any expectation of when you're going to achieve the thing you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I so appreciate that, Justin. And now that you've got the #1 slot and the investing category, maybe your next goal is to take down Joe Rogan's podcast for like the #1 podcast. That'll be your next goal. But I so appreciate you, Justin, and kind of unpacking how through your podcast and your coaching program and other areas that you're providing people. Really, what you're doing at the end of the day is you're serving people. You're nurturing and cultivating those relationships. You're providing genuine value, and you're remaining consistent in those efforts.
Yeah. No, thank you. That means a lot to me that you say that coming from you. It's, I'm at a place in my business that I will never stop doing real estate. It is transitioning, as I've just said. But now I have a passion to help the people that help. I was given so much help along the way. And a lot of times I cut a massive check to get that help, by the way. I still have a budget of 6 figures to pay for coaching and masterminds every year. So even I am still a student. I just am usually further along the path than most, right? And so, I just, now I'm really hell-bent on making an impact and creating a very similar scenario for others that I was given.
It's funny. I was going to ask you some questions regarding having a strong mindset and mental toughness, but I think we're going to forego that question because I think we already kind of hit the nail on the head. So the, kind of the next question I wanted to ask you is kind of looking forward, what trends, obviously no crystal balls here, but, what trends, or opportunities in real estate do you think investors should be paying attention to in the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years, I kind of, what I've been focusing on is the next 24 months, right? So 2 years. And this is why reverse flipping, and if you just go scienceofreverseflipping.com, there's a great video that can just explain it probably better than I'm doing now, because there's just going to be a lot of pain for the next 2 years, right? There's what we haven't addressed here, just for probably the sake of time, is everything that happened during COVID is catching up to a lot of the homeowners these days, right? The government basically putting that loan, telling the banks to put the loan on the back end of the loan. Now they can't afford the mortgage now, blah, 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 blah. So it's coming due. So I'm really hell bent on like really helping a lot of the people through this financial challenge with short sales, foreclosures, tax liens, etc. But I think in the next 5 years, my goal is 3,000 doors personally, right? I've said it publicly several times that I'm going to have $1 billion worth of assets in real estate. Did you guys hear when I said I was going to do that? You didn't. Because I'm going to do it as fast as I can. Remember my rule, right? But I love real estate, right? And so I think the next 5 years is going to be a great opportunity to buy a lot of assets. I think you got to be smart. I don't think you should whimsically do it. I see people all the time, I want to go buy my first rental, and they go buy a rental and it's like a nightmare to them. And so for me, it's buy as much real estate and make as much impact as I can. Got to a place in the business that I just want to make a lot of impact. I run a real real estate business. I have a general manager, I have operations, I have a whole team. I'm not in the day-to-day per se. And so that's kind of my answer.
That's great. Well, outside of tuning into the Science of Flipping podcast, what might be one or two other ways that our listening audience can connect with you to learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, the Instagram's probably my favorite platform. Just go to @the Justin Colby on Instagram, and I'm constantly posting on there and showing people the deals I'm buying and why I'm buying them and real stuff. I show HUDs, I show deeds I'm buying. So yeah, Instagram, the Justin Colby. YouTube's another great place. I put out a lot of content on YouTube, so you can look me up on YouTube as well.
Okay, great. Well, we'll definitely put those links in the show notes for this episode. Justin, this has been a very enlightening episode, and we definitely appreciate the value that you've been able to personally bring to our listening audience.
Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. And listening audience, thank you again for jumping into another episode of The Freedom Point. We look forward to having you join us on the next episode.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.